Hello, I'm Oskar Shirliyev and you're watching news from Kazakhstan. Successful operation by the state against business was held in Almaty. Special equipment supported by state authorities and police organized physical liquidation of food company's property. The workers and management of the plant failed to protect the object. A team of government officials, police and custom vehicles were opposed by the Aroma company's staff who blocked the way to their building. We consider this a violation of landholders' private property rights and the rights of Aroma company as a business entity. The company entered into a lease agreement with the landowner for the construction of a warehouse. The government has no claims against the lessor. However, it has major concerns about the business operation. There's no violation of private property rights here. We've served them several demolition notices, since plant construction in a residential area is illegal. The landholder is puzzled as to which one of the 7 objects located on his territory is marked for the demolition. Any attempts to explain the situation come to a deadlock. The facility that you say you'll demolish is one of the 7 objects over here, and none of them belongs to Aroma. I'm the only landowner. So which one is marked for demolition? There's no demolition act for my premises, thus what you are doing is unlawful. The situation with Aroma was getting tense by the minute. The plant defenders refused to give it to the security forces, while government officials were annoyed by continuous interference with their operations. Don't you see we're working? Just let us do our job. A short struggle resulted in advance of police and law enforcement officials over the plant staff resistance. They're out of control. Just look at those people assaulting an old man. What kind of government officials would curse and swear that way? They hit me and 4 more people. Curiously, the plant director Yelena Raykova claims that the construction permit was issued by the Architecture and Construction Supervision Department, which later declared the permit acquisition illegal. Yelena is convicted that the true reason behind demolition is land raiding. Of course, in this case, land value is of priority. They're trying to raid it by incriminating us in improper use of the plot. It's the only way for them to justify appropriation. According to the management, it's been the 5th attempt to demolish the plant. It looks like this time the officials succeeded in achieving their goal, which above all else resulted in 165 more people joining the ranks of the unemployed. Several public organizations of Kazakhstan threatened to organize protests in front of the Russian embassy. All this is linked to the sanctioned Russian marches, which were held on November 4th in Moscow and other cities. The action was supported by the representatives of Russian community in Almaty. Anti-fascists and public activists called the marches provocations and even sent a letter to the President of Russia. The Russian march held a few days ago in Moscow troubles Kazakhstan's activists. According to Talmas NGO representative Nailya Chukina, the certain memory of one nation trying to express its superiority over others is still quite fresh. Everyone knows how that ended. Just because they are the titular nation, it doesn't make others less valuable and less important. Therefore, whatever is currently happening should serve as a wake-up call for all the parties, NGOs and public associations. They all should stand up against the developing fascism. These words sound like a call to action. On November 4th, some members of the Russian ethnic minorities in Kazakhstan expressed their solidarity with organizers of the Russian march. This is a meeting of local Cossacks and activists of the Russian community in Kazakhstan who always supported the political regime in the country. They gave the title of chieftain to the nation's leader, which provoked a greater division in the society based on ethnic, linguistic and religious characteristics. The head of the Coordination Council of Russian, Cossack and Slavic organizations, Yuri Zakharov, is among the initiators of a rally in support of the Russian march. He believes there is nothing extraordinary in such actions. There is nothing fascistic or nationalistic about it. If Kazakhs will start claiming that they are the titular nation, there should be no harsh reaction to this. At the same time, civic movements now intend to picket the Russian diplomatic mission in Kazakhstan. Moreover, the opponents of the Russian marches have sent their concerns to Vladimir Putin and the Russian government, the strategic partner of Kazakhstan. Starting Friday, November 9th, 11 mediators of Zhanaozen started their work. They were handed certificates on completion of courses, mediation of social and labor disputes and conflicts. In course of 5 days, specialists from Astana trained middle-ranked managers of Ozenmunaygas the principles and rules of mediation. This, according to the state, will help to lower the degree of social tension and organize a dialogue between the sides in the right direction. The oil workers in the west of the country have their own mediators. They need to find a civilized way to address the issues that were never resolved by employers, labor unions and oil workers themselves. Kanat Yegizgarin is one of the 11 certified mediators, but with zero experience so far. I've just started, so I'll gain experience with time, and this will be a tool in my hands. It will be very useful for my work, and besides, there are 1,100 people working with us. Nowadays, it is important to know how to negotiate with people, so it's a vital skill. According to Nurlan Yerimbetov, the manager of Samruk-Kazana Foundation and a member of the group that came up with the mediator concept, the participants were selected naturally. Yerimbetov says that there were quite a few candidates for these positions, but it was important that workers knew and respected them. Most importantly, the mediators must know the ins and outs of the social psychology and the community of the region they live in. We finally set up our own center for training mediators because life goes on and no country is free from conflicts. We should not be afraid of dealing with them. People always have higher expectations and they will engage in conflicts. So it is the job of the state and government to resolve them. It is important that we address it now, as I think we're making a big step forward. According to Yerimbetov, this is not the first time the concept is being tested. In fact, major Kazakhstan companies already have their own mediators. The next step will be to train them professionally. Kazakh state officials are confident that the national IPO will trigger a wave of economical patriotism. Citizens participate in the distribution of shares not for their own profit, but for the benefit of the state economy during crisis times. Some media notes that in Aktau, investors stormed the cash desks to buy the shares of Kaztrans-Oil. Take a look at our next report. A psychological barrier to participate in the public IPO program has been successfully overcome, as witnessed by the record level of 35,000 registered shareholders reported on the business forum. That might be due to the population becoming more financially advanced or economically conscious. However, instead of calculating profit, the Samruk-Kazana National Fund representatives are trying to figure possible social risks. We are aware of the social tensions growing since December. That's not something we can afford to brush aside. The most risky part of the venture is overpricing followed by a slump, which is sure to result in mass commotion. This time people won't be filing complaints. They will rather take it to the streets. On Friday, Kaztrans-Oil representatives held a conference at the Drama Theatre to discuss the future profits and advantages for the company's investors. Meanwhile, the crowd at the Kazpost office spent the entire day lined up for a chance to make a small fortune. Some people assured that, dividends aside, they would be glad to help the company finally stand firmly on its feet. For now, they don't seem to have high revenue expectations. People should not live a day-to-day existence. They should accumulate savings and look for additional revenue sources. That's a long-term vision for securing the future. Parliament member Murat Abenov didn't accept the invitation to attend the forum. The comments he posted on the internet sound rather skeptical. This project will never become truly public. The National Bank states that only 10 to 20,000 people will be able to buy shares, which makes 0.01% of the Kazakhstan's total population. This means that according to the National Bank and Samruk-Kazana, 99.9% of Kazakh citizens are not eligible to become shareholders. Question is, why even bother calling it People's IPO? The business elite encourages Kazakh citizens to go for at least one share, implying that $5 make reasonable cost for a true patriot, especially when what you get in return is voting authority in the national company management. The only question is whether this vote will be even considered. A conflict between two teenagers turned into police vendetta. Police officers brutally beat up two teenagers in Dubrovka village of Karaganda region. Currently, they are in the hospital with numerous injuries. Find out what caused the conflict in the next report. A few days ago, the 16-year-old twins, Vadim and Vladimir Mauer, were urgently taken to hospital diagnosed with fractures of jaws and nose, brain concussion and numerous bruises. The teenagers say this is the result of their earlier interaction with police officers. We were handcuffed and roughly hustled into the car. They brought us to the police station and left sitting there naked and hobbled in cuffs. Then one man dressed as civilian received a call and confirmed something over the phone. After that, he came up and started beating me. My brother ran up to us, intending to help, and pushed the officer away without hitting him. But that provoked everyone else in the room to stop beating and kicking both of us even harder. There were around 9 people there. First, they were beating us in turns, but then it turned into a group assault. They were kicking and trampling over us. I had footprints all over my body. The guys believe the reason lies in a conflict Vadim had with one of his friends. One night they were dealing with a situation one-on-one, but then it appeared that the opponent's father holds a senior government post, which they link with a visit of enraged policemen to their apartment a few hours later. I'm shocked with what I saw. What they did was horrendous. They thrust the mother and aunt aside and dragged the boys off the house in underwear. I was in my apartment when I heard screaming. When I ran out to see what was going on, the policeman insisted that I return to my home and close the door. These people must keep order and protect citizens, while what they were doing was in fact a crime. The eyewitnesses claimed that teenagers were beaten by strong men in police uniform, whom Dubrovka village residents had never seen before. As for the local officers, reporters didn't find them at the workplace and had to settle for the version of events given by their assistants. We registered an assault of a police officer, resulting in injuries received by the Criminal Investigation Department head. It happened when the detainee was uncuffed. He then hit our chief in the face. They had been detained after a fight right next to the police station. Vadim and Vladimir remain hospitalized for now. In the meantime, their mother is caught between the hospital, a prosecutor's office and a law firm. Rectification of injuries appears to be a costly affair in Kazakhstan. The woman had to run in debt to hire a rights defender for her underage children. The story of liberation of Kazakhstanis in Moscow from slavery is continuing. On Friday, it was revealed that Kazakh citizens were not the only victims of slavery. KPLUS channel continues to monitor the situation. More detailed report is being prepared for the weekly Vlast KZ program. What will it be about? Find out next. An unexpected turn of events in the story of several citizens of Kazakhstan freed from slavery in Russia last week. Officers of the local police jurisdiction are now trying to cover up the entire incident and present it as a case of illegal immigration. The crew of the Russian REN TV working on Weekly News Roundup was assaulted a few days ago in one of the stores owned by the slavers. Journalists from REN TV were surrounded and their belongings taken away. We have the exclusive interview with the freed family talking about 6 years in slavery, violence, hard labor and the birth of their son Nursultan. We're leaving this place with hopes and praise Allah that Nursultan was born here. Zarina named him after the president. He is 4 months old now. Our reporters managed to find and speak to the neighbors of slavers back in Kazakhstan. They learned shocking details of how people were recruited into slavery. Their houses are located over there. Find out more on Monday in Vlast KZ on KPLUS channel. The judge of Almaty City Court decided to maintain the verdict on 2 months arrest term for Askar Moldashev unchanged. The court bypassed the arguments of the defense that insisted on violations during the arrest by the law enforcement agencies. The ruling of the Almaty's Bostandyk District Court regarding the 2 months arrest of Askar Moldashev remains in power. Askar Moldashev's defense failed to appeal against his arrest. The brother of Danyar Moldashev, the director of the publisher behind the newspaper Golos Respubliki, will spend 2 months in the pretrial detention center. During the hearing, the prosecutor said that the investigation suspects the younger Moldashev of committing a serious crime. Askar Moldashev is charged with a rather serious crime against morality, punishable by law with up to 15 years in custody. A special forces unit detained Askar Moldashev on the morning of October 31st. Allegedly, pills and some powder substance was found in his pocket. The expert review is still working on verifying what the discovery actually is. The searches in the apartments of Moldashev's close ones didn't bring any results, but on November 2nd, the district court still issued an arrest warrant for 2 months. Attorney Inessa Kisilova says that the arrest itself was done with many violations. The presence of unidentifying witnesses and actions of law enforcers raise a lot of questions. Also, the detainee was kept in horrible conditions without food and water, which actually could be seen as torture. I believe that the agency check will be performed and it will reveal all violations that I talked about at the Court of First Instance and the Court of Appeal. All these violations should be investigated. I'm hopeful that the truth will prevail, as otherwise there is no justice. In the meantime, Judge Zhangazin announced that the decision of the appeals court cannot be contested. Now Moldashev's family and defense team can only wait for the results of the investigation and expert review. The situation with human rights was discussed on Friday at the annual seminar of the European Union. Experts believe that civil society is too much involved with internal disputes and that they have no intention to influence the process within the country. According to human rights defender Amangildi Sharmanbayev, civil society possesses substantial resources but doesn't know how to use them. There are too many different opinions and contradictions. I'd even say these are the clashes for the sake of clashes. There are too many public campaigns. Take the referendum initiatives, for instance, among many others. This consumes a lot of resources, both human and financial. Now the question is how to put all those resources into projects that are actually essential. We need to start with the most vital thing and deal with minor details later. International observers raise their concerns regarding the situation with human rights in Kazakhstan and say that only political changes and external support will ensure that human rights are observed on practice. This also includes financial and non-governmental organizations protecting human rights in the country.
Need strong international commitment, strong international support from outside the country, because inside you need first of all more political will to change anything. And in my opinion, this is the biggest problem now. As you said, the Zhanaozen events.
Olympic champion Alexander Vinokurov commented on accusations over the purchase of the victory at League Baston League tournament in 2010. The quote was provided by Kazanform agency. "This is an old issue. I have nothing to add. I repeat once more, I won in fair competition," said Vinokurov. He also made some guesses on which things could have caused the accusations. There are people both here and abroad who don't want to see me running the team. Perhaps it's also because of the expo which I promote. In that situation, it would make more sense for Golubnev to buy the victory, not me. Just look at how many wins I have compared to Golubnev. Kazakh businessmen now have a right to openly doubt the legality of plant inspections by the state institutions. The new service called Control SMS was launched for a business community. By sending a message to 1012, each entrepreneur will receive a detailed information on who and why sanctioned the inspection. Deputy Prosecutor General Andrei Kravchenko revealed during a special video conference on Friday that 6 ministries of the country have conducted a total of 26,500 illegal inspections since the beginning of the year, despite the fact that the number of plant audits was supposed to drop. Representatives of Atamiken National Economic Chamber present at the conference immediately requested to punish the officials responsible for unplanned inspections. 26,000 is a tremendous number. The inspections were unauthorized because they didn't comply with provisions of the law on state control. We want to request an irreversible punishment for the officials on various charges. Radiation control was set up at the Astana airport. Special detecting system was given by the US Embassy and Norway within the framework of the international cooperation in preventing of illegal movement of nuclear materials by second line of defense program. Russian equipment is commonly used in the CIS. It reacts to any radiation background in excess of a permitted limit. This year, the customs authorities have encountered 38 cases of radioactive materials movements at the external border of the customs union. The US ambassador to Kazakhstan, Kenneth Fairfax, took part in the presentation of the equipment at the airport and was asked about the dispute over the placement of a nuclear fuel bank in Kazakhstan.
But the quantity of uranium involved is actually very, very tiny compared to the amount that Kazakhstan already processes every year as part of the Kazatomprom. Starts in life or United National tragedy. MPs are thinking of links between the United National testing and the number of suicides among school children. Specialists are trying to persuade state officials to prepare pupils psychologically in advance. Find out details in the next report.
Yermek Bajenov scored 47 out of 125 maximum points during the unified national testing last year. He didn't even reach the minimum threshold, yet he still managed to enroll with the university. Everybody, even the boys, cried about scoring low, while I couldn't care less. I told my parents a long time ago that I won't pass the UNT, yet I will manage to enter the university. Well, here I am, a university student. However, Yermek is rather an exception. The people unofficially refer to UNT as a unified national tragedy. This method of knowledge evaluation has first been introduced 8 years ago and lately has been frequently associated with teenage suicide. There were 209 suicide cases reported among school children in 2009, and the number grew to 237 in 2010. In view of these facts, I want to know what measures have been taken to improve the UNT procedures to prevent suicides. While the officials have yet to decide whether to link the tests to the grim statistics, experts are convinced that it is necessary to prepare students for the exams academically as well as psychologically. In the meantime, school psychologists in Almaty are now coached how to help children overcome the stress associated with the test. We still consider the UNT as a risk factor for suicide among students, although we no longer receive the statistics, which makes it very difficult to trace. Therefore, we believe that children need to be prepared psychologically. The first results are very promising, as children scored better on UNT after the psychological preparation. In the meantime, it wouldn't hurt school psychologists to improve their skills and the administration to treat their specialists better. Many psychologists share the same issue lately. None of us actually have a designated workplace. A kid should understand that he's not in a class or staff room with all the people around. Yermek turned out to be stress-resistant upon failing to score the required points, which is quite unusual considering the social stereotype that the lack of college education will get you nowhere. In some respect, this explains why many applicants take the UNT results way too serious. Swindlers in Pavlodar bring presents to pensioners and demand money, claiming the presents belong to the famous Russian TV host of health shows. Sometimes old people give away their lost savings just to receive the gift from the Russian TV star. Labour veteran Vladimir Shvaika can now smile, recalling the unexpected visit of fraudsters when two strangers came to his home congratulating the pensioner with the day of the October Socialist Revolution. They brought gifts and claimed that Yelena Malasheva herself, a prominent Russian TV doctor, sent them to meet with the Pavlodar senior. Vladimir immediately suspected something was off, but the use of the celebrity's credibility eventually overcame his doubts, and he gave $300 to the men, supposedly for delivering the package. From the very beginning, I got suspicious of the visitors. I could not believe that Malasheva herself sent me the gifts. I wondered if there was any special campaign going on. I was really confused. The veteran's lost doubt about being a fraud victim vanished when he unwrapped his gifts. He could not believe that a TV host from the most watched Russian channel could gift an old balding man with a hairdryer. The pensioner immediately went to the police station, where he was promised that the conman will be soon caught. So far, it's an instance of frauds in our city, but we still opened an appropriate case, and the police is doing their best to catch these criminals. It is doubtful that Yelena Malasheva herself is aware of some conmen in Kazakhstan using her name for their deeds, although similar schemes are quite common in general. After all, there are plenty of credulous citizens, and it is important as ever to stay vigilant. This is all we have time for now. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to tune on KplusTV on Monday. Have a great weekend. Stay well.